Hi everyone, welcome to Storytime with Srta Pikula. I hope that all of you are having a great day. Happy Tuesday. And it's a beautiful day outside. Um, I hope that all of you are getting out to enjoy it because um, it's looking fantastic out there. I'm sitting in our porch right now. Phaedra today. Uh, Phaedra's so funny. She always when I read with her, she sits there and it's something strange. She's like, "What?" And she always asks me questions, and so that's really great. I love your curiosity, Phaedra. So shout out to Phaedra. Um, we're gonna continue. We're gonna recap a little bit, which is Dawn Treader. So we finished chapter 4, and in chapter 4, Caspian and Lord Byrne, who was the man who bought him, they were storming the castle at Narrowhaven, which was on Dorne, the middle island, and was the center of all of the town and of the islands. And they were kind of faking it. They were going in there. Really, Caspian only has one ship with 3 men or 30 men, but they sent a signal as if he had more fleets. And so all the people there assumed that he had way more soldiers with him and that he was taking over. And Lord Gumpus was the governor. He was the guy looking over the islands, and he was kind of a buffoon and not doing a very good job. And he objected to when they came into the castle, and they came right into his room, even though they said only on every other Saturday between 9 and 10 p.m. can you have a meeting. Clearly, he doesn't want people to have meetings because no one schedule a meeting that late, only on every other Saturday. And he ignored them, like, oh, whatever, who are you? I don't care. And then Caspian just took him out of his office because he was doing a very bad job, and he made Lord Byrne, not only did he give him his job as in place of the governor, but he named him a duke, which is higher than a governor. So the castle now belongs to Lord Byrne, and he's the duke, and they're bringing right and order to the islands. And Caspian stopped the slave trade, and he rescued Edmund and Lucy and Reepicheep and Eustace, although Eustace was really sulky and no one wanted to buy Eustace as a slave because he was so sulky and bad-tempered. And then he left so that he's leaving the islands to the hands of Lord Byrne, who's Duke Byrne, and they're sailing on eastward. And before they left, Caspian asked many experienced sailors, do you know what's beyond there? Do you know what else is out there? And they all gave mixed reviews. Some of them said Aslan's country's out there, but they're like, well, you can't get there. So they don't know what's ahead of them, but they're going to keep sailing. So let's see what happens. Chapter 5, The Storm and What Came of It. It was nearly 3 weeks after their landing that the Dawn Treader was towed out of Narrowhaven Harbor. Solemn farewells had been spoken, and a great crowd had assembled to see her departure. There had been cheers and tears too when Caspian made his last speech to the lone islanders and parted from the Duke and his family. But as the ship, her purple sails still flapping idly, drew further from the shore, the sound of Caspian's trumpet came from the poop deck, came fainter across the water. Everyone became silent. Then she came into the wind. The sail swelled out, the tug cast off and began rowing back. And the first real wave ran under the Dawn Treader's prow, and she was a live ship again. The men off duty went below, and Drinian took the first watch on the poop deck, and she turned her head eastward round the south of the island Arva. The next few days were delightful. Lucy thought she was the most fortunate girl in the world as she woke each morning to see the reflection of the sunlit water dancing on the ceiling of her cabin and looked round on all the nice new things she had got in the Lone Islands: sea boots and buckskins and cloaks and jerkins and scarves. And then she would go on deck and take a look from the forecastle at a sea which was a brighter blue each morning and drink in the air that was a little warmer day by day. After that came breakfast and such an appetite as one has at the sea. She spent a good deal of time sitting on a little bench in the stern playing chess with Reepicheep. It was amusing to see him lifting the pieces, which were far too big for him, with both paws and standing on tiptoes if he made a move near the center of the board. He was a good player, and when he remembered what he was doing, he usually won. But every now and then Lucy won because the mouse did something quite ridiculous, like sending a knight into the danger of a queen and a castle combined. This happened because he had momentarily forgot it was a game of chess and was thinking of a real battle and making the knight do what he would certainly have done in his place. For his mind was full of forlorn hopes, death or glory charges, and last stands. But this pleasant time did not last. There came an evening when Lucy, gazing idly astern at the long furrow or wake were leaving behind them, saw a great rack of clouds building itself up in the west with amazing speed. Then a gap was torn in it, and a yellow sunset poured through the gap. All the waves behind them seemed to take on unusual shapes, and the sea was a drab or yellowish color, like a dirty canvas. The air grew cold. The ship seemed to move uneasily as if she felt danger behind her. The sail would be flat and limp 1 minute and wildly full the next. While she was noting these things and wondering at a sinister change which had come over the very noise of the wind, Drinian cried, "All hands on deck!" In a moment, everyone became frantically busy. The hatches were battened down, the galley fire was put out, and men went aloft to reef the sail. Before they had finished, the storm struck them. It seemed to Lucy that a great valley in the sea just opened before their bows, and they rushed down into it, deeper down than she would have believed possible. A great gray hill of water, far higher than the mast, rushed to meet them. It looked like certain death, but they were tossed to the top of it. Then the sea seemed to spin around. A cataract of water poured over the deck. The poop and the forecastle were like two islands with a fierce sea between them. Up aloft, the sailors were lying out along the yard, desperately trying to get control of the sail. A broken rope stood out sideways in the wind and as straight and stiff as if it were a poker. "Get below, madam!" bawled Drinian, as Lucy, knowing that landsmen and landwomen are a nuisance to the crew, began to obey. It was not easy. Don Treader was listing terribly to starboard, and the deck sloped like the roof of a house. She had to clamber around to the top of the ladder, holding onto the rail, and then stand by while two men climbed up it, and then get down it as best as she could. It was well she was already holding on tight, for at the foot of the ladder, another wave roared across the deck, up to her shoulders. She was already almost wet through with spray and rain, but this was colder. Then she made a dash for the cabin door and got in and shut out for a moment the appalling sight of the speed with which they were rushing into the dark, but not, of course, the horrible confusion and creaking and groaning, snappings, clatterings, roarings, and boomings, which only sounded more alarming below than they had done on the deck. And all the next day, and all the next, it went on and on. It went on until one could hardly even remember a time before it had begun. And there had always been 3 men at the tiller, and it was as much as 3 could do to keep any kind of a course. And there had always had to be men at the pump, and there was hardly any rest for anyone, and nothing could be cooked, and nothing could be dried, and one man was lost overboard, and they never saw any sun. When it was over, Eustace made the following entry in his diary. September 3rd, the first day for ages when I have been able to write. When we had been driven before a hurricane for 13 days and nights. I know that because I kept a careful count, though the others all say it was only 12. Pleasant to be embarked on a dangerous voyage with people who can't even count right. I have had a ghastly time, up and down enormous waves, hour after hour, usually wet to the skin, and not even an attempt to give us proper meals. Needless to say, there's no wireless or even a rocket. A wireless, that means like radio. So no chance of signaling for anyone for help. It all proves what I keep on telling them: the madness of setting out on a rotten little in a rotten little tub like this. It would have been enough even if one was with decent people instead of fiends in human form. Caspian and Edmund are simply brutal to me. The night we lost our mast, there's only a stump left now. Though I was not at all well, they forced me to come on the deck and work like a slave. Lucy shoved her oar in by saying that Reepicheep was longing to go, only he was too small. I wonder she doesn't see that everything that little beast does is all for the sake of showing off. Even at her age, she ought to have that amount of sense. Today, the beastly boat is level at last, and the sun's out, and we have all been jawing about what to do. We have enough food, pretty beastly stuff, most of it, to last for 16 days. The poultry was all washed overboard. Even if they hadn't been, the storm would have stopped them laying. The real trouble is water. Two casks seems to have got a leak knocked in them, and they are empty. Narnian efficiency again. On short rations, half a pint a day each, we've got enough for 12 days. There's still lots of rum and wine, but even they really. Of course, the sensible thing would be turn west at once and make for the Lone Islands. But it took us 18 days to get where we are, running like mad with a gale behind us. Even if we got an east wind, it might take us far longer to get back. And at present, there's no sign of an east wind. In fact, there's no wind at all. For rowing back, it would take far too long. Caspian says the men couldn't row on half a pint of water a day. I'm pretty sure he's wrong. I tried to explain that perspiration, means sweat, really cools people down, so the men would need less water if they were working. He didn't take any notice of this, which is always his way when he can't think of an answer. All the others voted for going on in the hope of finding land. I felt it was my duty to point out that we didn't know that there was any land ahead and tried to get them to see the dangers of wishful thinking. Instead of producing a better plan, they had the cheek to ask me what I proposed. So I just explained coolly and quietly that I had been kidnapped and brought away on this idiotic voyage without my consent, and it was hardly my business to get them out of their scrape. September 4th. Still becalmed. Very short rations for dinner, and I got less than anyone. Caspian is very clever at helping and thinks I don't see. Lucy, for some reason, tried to make up to me by offering some of hers, but that interfering prig Edmund wouldn't let her give it to me. Pretty hot sun. Terribly thirsty all evening. September 5th. Still becalmed and very hot. Feeling rotten all day, and I'm sure I've got a temperature. Of course, they haven't got the sense to keep a thermometer on board. September 6th. A horrible day. Woke up in the night knowing I was feverish and must have a drink of water. Any doctor would have said so. Heaven knows I'm the last person to try to get any unfair advantage, but I never dreamed that this water rationing would be meant to apply to a sick man. In fact, I would have woken up the others and asked for some, only I thought it would be selfish to wake them. So I got up and took my cup and tiptoed out of the black hole we sleep in, taking great care not to disturb Caspian or Edmund, for they've been sleeping badly since the heat and the short water began. I always try to consider others, whether they are nice to me or not. I got out all right into the big room, if you can call it a room, where the rowing benches and the luggage are. The thing of water is at this end. All was going beautifully, but before I had drawn a cupful, who should catch me but that little spy, Reepicheep. I tried to explain that I was going on deck for a breath of air. The business about water had nothing to do with him. And he asked me why I had a cup. He made such a noise that the whole ship was awakened. They treated me scandalously. I asked, as I think anyone would have, why Reepicheep was sneaking about the water cask in the middle of the night. He said that as he was too small to be any use on deck, he did sentry over the water every night so that one more man could go to sleep. Now comes the rotten unfairness. They all believed him. Can you beat it? I had to apologize, or the dangerous little brute would have been at me with his sword. And then Caspian showed up in his true colors as a brutal tyrant and said out loud for everyone to hear that anyone found stealing water in the future would get 2 dozen. I didn't know what this meant till Edmund explained it to me. It comes in the sort of books those pedants read. After this cowardly threat, Caspian changed his tune and started to be patronizing. He said he was sorry for me and that everyone felt just as feverish as I did, and we must all make the best of it, etc., etc. Odious, stuck-up prig. Stayed in bed all day today. And that's where we're going to stop for today. We have a few more little entries by Eustace, but that's where we're going to stop for today. And Eustace is very not positive, and he kind of thinks everyone's out to pick on him, and he exaggerates a lot, which is quite humorous. But poor Eustace, he's never been in Narnia before, so he's acting a little silly. But thank you for tuning in today, and I hope that all of you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks for watching.